I can remember very vividly the day I decided to get out of New York. I was thinking about Monique Theater and the R train. The R train. You got to ride it a few times. In my case, a few thousand times. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me give you a little background. That's where I grew up, 63rd and 5th. We had a little pied-à-terre there. So all that great stuff was my front yard, my playground. You know, the plaza, the Pierre, MoMA at 53rd and 5th. That's the Museum of Modern Art, in case you don't know what MoMA is. And at 60th and 5th, the good old R train, right there, 3 blocks from our apartment. Well, it wasn't long before I discovered that you jump on that R train and you're right down to the village. So all through my teens, that's what I did, to hang out with my friends. Then I started studying acting down in the village, taking the R train. Another big chunk, 5 years or so. And then I started doing theater down there. Again, taking the R train down to the village. So there I am, 57th and 7th on the R train going downtown. Carnegie Hall, very dear to my heart. See, Carnegie Hall goes from 57th to 56th, and right at the corner, the southeast corner, at 56th and 7th, there used to be a place in the Carnegie Hall building itself, a little place called the Carnegie Hall Cinema. Monique, she would take me there. I don't want to go there, see those old movies. You know, I'm hip, I want to see what's happening today, you know. Well, she practically slapped my face. She said, now you listen to me. There's no such thing as an old movie. They're only images that you haven't seen yet. So, together we discovered them all there, all the masters. Oh boy. Fellini, Truffaut, Antonioni, De Sica, Rossellini, all of them, right there at the Carnegie Hall Cinema. So there I am sitting on the R train. Anything could happen on the R train. You could be mugged on the R train, stabbed, murdered, shot, anything. You could be standing on the platform waiting for the R train. Somebody could push you in front of the train. That happens in New York. Not often, but it happens. Then I started calculating. I wonder how many times I've been on this train in my life. And I thought, it's got to be 50 a month, say 500 in a year. Easy 500 in a year. 500 in a year, well, 10 years would be 5,000, right? 5,000 times in 10 years. And I thought, hey, let's see, then 20 years. Ooh, 10,000 times on the R train. That's it. Made up my mind. The day I close my show, no matter how long it runs, I got to get out of New York for a while. I got to stop riding this train. I left. And here I am. Et voila. Scottsdale, Arizona. What a contrast. Ooh, man, what a contrast. Wow. It's, well, it's kind of like being on the far side of the moon. But it's warm. It's warm. It's very warm. Actually, it's more than warm. It's hot. Let's put it that way. It's hot. It's very hot. Look, if you're ever going to do one of these things, ever going to try and do one of these things, don't think you're going to get people to stick around just because you give them a deferred payment contract. Doesn't matter. They get jittery. They're suspicious. They think you're going to go make $1 million and cheat them out of their share. During one of the first auditions, I went into the John and I could hear them talking about me.
Don't you know what's going on? You gotta know what's going on. This guy is gonna shice the hell out of us. He's got us going on deferred payment. That means we ain't never gonna get paid. You gotta get paid on deferred after the break. He's gonna take the money, he's gonna run, but this film is never gonna break no matter how much money it makes, and we're gonna get jack shit.
The guy who did the show with me in New York, he came out here. He was going to repeat his part out here. He had another problem, a different kind of a problem. He didn't have their problem. He didn't have the suspicion and fear problem. He had this other problem. His problem was that his mind was always down there. You know what I mean, down there. Well, as soon as he got out here, he got right to work. Right to work. Going through all the pretty ladies in the cast and the crew and anybody else that might happen along. And he was having some success at it, too. Yes, indeed, he was having some success at it. The only other problem, I know, we got a lot of problems here. A lot of problems. The only other problem is that my leading lady, she was very taken by him. Very taken by this guy. We could all tell, that she was probably hoping, wondering, waiting for her turn to come along. He gave off those kind of vibes. He was a lady killer, He gave off the kind of vibes, be patient, ladies, I'll get to you, you'll get your turn, One of those kind of guys. Well, the other problem, I know, we got lots of problems here, lots of problems, yep. Well, the other problem is that he got involved with this cute little PA. That's production assistant, in case you don't know. Excuse me, production assistant. And one day he took the PA into the pool. And he was, he was in the pool. They were, let's just say they were frolicking, okay? They were frolicking in the pool. Well, when that got back to my leading lady, no bueno, no bueno. She wasn't going to have any of that. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned and all that stuff. Boy, she was livid. I mean, livid. Of course, it only lasted for a couple of days because after a couple of days, she was gone. She left. Couldn't take that. At that point in her life, I suppose that acting was very low on her priority scale and romance was very high. So that was it. She was gone. And then I had a big argument with him, and he left, taking the PA with him. There I was, back to square one. That's where the rock and roller comes in. I met a rock and roller at a bar. At a bar. And the beers were going back and forth, 10, 12, I don't know how many beers, just a lot of beers. Well, finally I started looking at this guy. Not that kind of looking. I'm sizing him up for the part. Come on. I was looking at him, but come on. Okay. So I'm looking at this guy. Well, finally, I was so blotto, I just blurted it out to him. I said, "You know something? I think you've got what it takes to be a movie star." And he agreed with me. Then he said to me, he said, "You know something? Going from rocking and rolling to the silver screen, it'll be a piece of cake." And I agreed with him. So we staggered back to his place. He wanted to show me this old home movie footage he had of himself, to prove to me that he had the goods. Well, that was it. When I saw the home movie stuff, I was convinced, hey, there's my star. So we exchanged numbers as best we could, considering our condition. I called him the next day with him. He said he could squeeze me in. Squeeze me in during the break at his next rehearsal. Big red flag. Big red flag. But I ignored it, of course. I'm grasping at this straw so tightly. I ignored it. I went, couldn't find him. So where is this guy? Finally, somebody said, oh, he's over in this spare rehearsal room. He's playing with his camcorder. Playing with a camcorder? I wonder what that could mean. So I found him. There he was, playing with a camcorder, and he starts telling me about his idea for a movie, and he was going to shoot it with this little camcorder he had. Well, what could I do? I didn't want to alienate my potential leading man, so I politely listened to him for a little bit, and then some groupies collared him, dragged him into the hall, started asking for autographs and talking to him. I didn't want to step on his moment of glory, so I played along, and I kept my distance, about 10, 15 feet. He called me a couple of days later, and he apologized profusely, of course. And he said, really, I'm really sorry about what happened, but, I'm still interested in being a movie star. Oh, boy. Well, I'm grasping at a straw here, so I forgave him, and I said, hey, okay, no problem. Things happen. How about Saturday? You free Saturday? We'll read through the script, talk about the character, talk about the project. Are you free Saturday? Yeah, no problem. All day. I said, well, how about 3 o'clock? I didn't want to wake him too early. 3 o'clock, I thought, good time. And guess what happened? You're starting to get the pattern, aren't you? Mm-hmm. Yep, he didn't show again. Well, the last time I spoke to him, the last time I ever spoke to him, he was in some car, being driven to a rehearsal, I suppose, by some groupie. And you know what he told me?
Listen, I got my own idea. I got my own idea for a movie, okay? I don't want you to forget that. I've got my own idea for a movie. Well, no, I don't have a script. But no, I got it in my head, and that's all that matters. That's all that matters. I've got an idea for a movie. All I need is a camera guy, and all I need is some film student with a camera, and I've got it done, okay? But I don't want you to forget that, all right? I mean, every minute I give to you in your movie is taken away from my movie.
At this point, I'm so bugged. I was laying awake that night, racking my brains. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? I got to move on. I've got to move on, I just can't give this much time to this project, I can't do it. It's just too much. Well, I got a brainstorm. A stroke of genius. I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll do my part, Jack. That's the part I did in New York, Jack Merrimack. And I'll do Nash, too. I'll do both parts. Why not? I'll do Nash in blueface. Yes, it's all the rage now. Every time you turn on the TV, somebody's blabbering at you in blueface. Why not? It's all in vogue now to do something in blueface. Then people will know, you see. They'll know that it's two different people, you see. They'll know it's two different people. Well, other than being a very silly idea, the other problem was that I don't know anything about makeup. Nothing. Not a thing. Zip. That's all it is, Jack.
And that's why I'm seeing all these dead people who died. Is that it?
That's it. Now you've got it.
Okay. I'll go along with that. I can dig that. But if I'm in this other space...
It's called the astral world, Jack. It looked kind of silly, didn't it? Didn't it? All right, it looked very silly. I'll give it to you. It looked very silly. Well, I abandoned that harebrained idea. And by this time, it was getting crazy hot here. I mean, crazy hot. What am I going to do? July here, June, July, August, it's always 110, 115. It's ridiculous. Ridiculously hot. Well, what people do here is they all drive up to Flagstaff. It's 7,000 feet above here. It's about 120 miles. It's not a hard drive, but you're on a constant incline. You're going up all the way. It's 7,000 feet. So I did. I drove up there, drove up to Flagstaff. Let me give you a little inside information, just in case you ever get out here. If Scottsdale is like being on the far side of the moon, Flagstaff is like being on the far side of Mars. It's cooler. It's a lot cooler. Amtrak came to my rescue. I spied a train station. I'm walking down the street and I thought, oh, a train station. This could be my salvation. So I walked in. I walked up to the teller. I said, where do these trains go? He said, we go east and west. Just the kind of answer you'd expect from somebody in Flagstaff. So I thought, I have to get him to be a little more specific. So I just asked him, I said, well, do you go to L.A.? He said, we sure do. We've got a train in 1 hour to L.A. I said, that's fantastic. I said, but you know, I've got a car. What would I do with my car? He said, that's no problem. If you buy a ticket on any Amtrak train, you can park your car in our parking lot for up to 2 weeks, free of charge. I said, give me a ticket. L.A., round trip. There I am. I'm on the train to L.A. I thought I'd go see my friend Laura. Laura's this, she's this pretty young lady well, she's this friend. Let's put it that way. And a few other friends. I thought I'd visit them, you know, hang out, wash my brain, chill out. And on the train, I met a guy from Australia.
Not only is there an emotional involvement which people can enjoy, there's also a message and a theme behind it. And that requires a kind of, as well as being involved in the film and feeling the emotions, you follow along and see, and you have to understand the point of it. Often in a film, the emotions are conveyed to actually let you explore for yourself and see other people's point of view and see the contradictions of you. Often it'll veer one way and you're half sold this may be the answer, and then they point out why it's wrong, and then veer off somewhere else and a different answer, and again come up with what may be wrong with it. And then often at the end you're left thinking, well, maybe none of it is there, maybe it's just something simple. And often that's a different kind of emotional roller coaster that gets people involved in a film. It's still a passage of your, not just of your emotions. You ride along, you identify with a character or the situation in some way, but it's far more deeper than, you know, somebody goes out with somebody on a date, somebody else likes that girl, somebody gets dumped, everyday little situations like that. That's an emotion roller coaster. People get involved, they often enjoy it, but there's nothing behind it. There's very little meaning behind it. And then in other films, and as I said, the Italian style films, often that's very operatic and it's emphasized and there's a meaning behind it. It's a exploration of life and living.
Would you say La Dolce Vita is a good example of that?
Yeah, that's a perfect example. At the end of it, we were talking before, there's a scene where he's saying, she's trying to attract his attention, and he's going, I can't hear you, I can't hear you. And that's a perfect example of that kind of emotion plus thinking. On an emotional level, you have the tug at the heartstrings. You want him, in some sense, to be able to hear her. And in another way, it's got that thoughtful meaning of saying, he's so tied up in what the future should be and what people believe should be the future, yet at the same time, here's a prime example of the simple life where someone is really happy, but he can't hear, he can't accept that, he can't go there.
What about movement? You were talking that a film should have movement.
Yeah.
How does that relate to what you're talking about?
A lot of the effects and movement comes in two parts again. It's never quite simple. There is a movement of activity and there's a movement of time. And both of those movements can be cues as to emotions. I mean, we've all heard the film sort of do, or the spooky music where we know something terrible is going to happen. That builds your emotions, but that's also a movement of your feelings. It's a movement through time. And in some cases, it's a shrinking of time, because that anticipation and waiting for some event is often an intrinsic part of the message.
Is that all you have to say?
I think so at this stage. It's the films. I mean, the other flavors of other, we call them emotional intensifiers. There are other ones, such as music, there's movement, there's colour. There can be also the pace of the movie, as you can chop and change between scenes and show different effects and different degrees of urgency.
Did you understand any of that? Come on, did you? Yeah. Anyway, I got to LA and Laura wasn't even there. She had to go up to Santa. She works for this music agency. And they were covering a concert from some group that they represented, and she wasn't even there. But I hung out for a few days with my friends and took the train back here, drove back. When I get back, there's a message on the machine from Laura. She's here today, coming into Scottsdale Airport. She's flying in here. I'll try and remember her message so you kind of get the gist of it, word for word. Her message was something like, "It's me. I'm flying into Scottsdale Airport, 3 o'clock. Please pick me up. I'm going to attempt," I think, yes, the word was attempt. "I'm going to attempt to rescue you from this ridiculous insanity and get you moving on your CD. I'll be there at 3. Don't be late." Well, ridiculous insanity. That made me start thinking, ridiculous insanity. Well, anyway, I have to pick her up in about an hour, so I'm going to take a shower and get ready and get going. We'll see what happens.